All right, got the new 400Z on the lift. I think it's got like 7,000 miles. We're gonna do some downpipes, get rid of the cats, do some downpipes, full exhaust, coilovers, intakes. So that's what we're gonna do on this thing today. I've never worked on one of these, but I ain't afraid of no ghost. So we'll see how it goes. The first thing I'm going to do is remove this mid pipe. It's got 2 bolts here, 2 bolts there, 2 bolts here. Get this out, and then I'm going to go after the rear muffler area, get that out. And then we're going to go after some of these down pipes. You can see like this nut is pretty easy to get to. It looks like the nut is on this side. Instead of being on this side, it's on the back side of the flange here. I think 2 of them are like that. Those are going to be the 2 hardest ones. So a quick tip would be to do those hard ones first and then do this one last. This one's easy to get to, so it'll hold all the pressure. That way when you break these back ones loose, they'll come right off and you won't be fighting the weight of the exhaust. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, I got the exhaust off from the downpipes back. Ended up just unbolting the hangers because it was easier for me. And I'll pull those off and bolt them back on the car when I put the new exhaust on. But it was 2 bolts here, 2 bolts here. There's a hanger here, the nut. Same with the other side. And then there's 3 bolts on each side for the big muffler. So that's that. All right, so I'm gonna start going after these downpipes. There is an O2 sensor right here, this green wire. I'm gonna unplug that and get it out of this little thing. Get that unplugged. There's also this bracket that holds it. Looks like a couple 14s here, and then a 14 here, both sides. I'm gonna get those brackets off first, and then we'll start messing around with getting the downpipes off. All right, so I got this side off. I had to go up, and these are the butts and nuts. I had to use an extension from the top to get these out. Also, this bracket right here, this guy, if you look, there's 2 bolts. Oh, excuse me, sorry. This guy right here, he bolts here. And I think we're gonna reuse him for the downpipes. These are the matte performance downpipes. They do have a tab. But my whole point in mentioning this is these 2 bolts that hold this side of the bracket on, these 2 bolts, these are actually bell housing bolts. So if I don't end up using this bracket, in the factory place, make sure to put these 2 bolts back in the bell housing in these 2 holes here, because they're big 17s, and I think they hold the transmission onto the engine. So yeah, but hopefully we can reuse this and just put it all back. Okay, so I got the first portion of each downpipe on. This one had 3 bolts, 2 I had to get from the top with extensions, 1 nut on the bottom, and this one only had 2. I thought there was 3, but I was delighted to see there's only 2. The next thing I have to go after is the heat shields on the turbo. Looks like it's got a couple 10 millis. So we're gonna go after those, try to get those loose and off, and then there's some V-bands underneath there. There's also some mounting brackets, like this guy right here, that need to be removed. So I hear the passenger side is the hard side because of this power steering motor, and then this should be the easier side, but it still has a steering shaft. So anyway, I'm gonna go after these and see what I can get done. Trying to find some more bolts for the heat shields. I'll take this one right there. Right into that water tube. That's gonna be fucking fun. Hell yeah. Bruh. Any others? Is that the last one? Did I save the hardest one for last? I think I may have. Okay. That wrench is stuck. And I can't get it off. I tried everything. It is stuck. Whatever is trapped it looks like it's stuck on the corner of that V-band flange. And it is not happy. Alright, I finally got this shield off. And this bolt up here, there's a water tube right above it. and I got a gear wrench stuck in between this and the water tube, and it got pinched in there for a while, and it took a real long time to get it out. But this bolt on this heat shield was the hardest thing I've done so far. I've got cuts on my arm. This thing can go to hell. All right, I finally got the passenger side out. That took me like 2 or 3 hours. That was not pleasant. So now I gotta go after use the passenger side removed, thank God. And then now I gotta take out the driver's side. From the videos I've watched, this is the easier side, so I always like to do the hard work first so things get easier as I go. So let's hope the internet's right and this isn't terrible. But here I go. All right, working on the passenger side. I got a lot of the bolts off for the heat shield. You can see there's 2 there. There was 2 here with nuts on the back side. You can kind of see it right there. There's one. But there's 2 bolts up under here with nuts on them. There's a bolt right there on the side. Kind of hard to see, but it's there, I promise. Anyway, so I pretty much got this unbolted, and I used a pry bar to bend the shield to access the V-band. I did something similar on this side. So that was the little thing, is I just get the heat shield so I can bend them out of the way. And up in here, it's hard to see, but up in here, you can get to the V-band. It's something. It's hard. It's really hard to film up here, so sorry the shots are so terrible. But I bend the heat shield so I can get an extension and a swivel on the V-band. And then after I get the V-band loose, I'll take off this mounting bracket right here, and this should come out, and then we can install. Putting this side on wasn't hard. One tool I used in my mess of tools is this guy right here. This is a very shallow socket, and he's got a 17 mil hex on the back, and then I got a 17 gear wrench. This tool was very useful in getting some of these tight bolts off between the frame rail and the turbo. There's not a lot of space. 1/4 inch won't fit in there. Like, you wonder why I can't just use a regular 10mm gear wrench. A lot of the bolts are recessed in these little recesses, and you can't get a wrench on it, so you need a little bit of depth. But you have a frame rail on the back side of this, like right here. So this tool made it possible. If you don't have a setup like this and you're trying to do this job, I suggest you get one before you start, because it made things a little bit easier. Just a tip. So I got the bolts off and I bent the shields, and I got a swivel up there on the V-band, and I'm just loosening that bolt for the V-band. And once you get that out, you take off that mounting bracket like I said earlier, and then this cat, you probably have to wrestle with it, but it should come out. All right, so I got the V-band bolt all the way out. I take them all the way out. The V-band has to come completely apart to come off the flange. This bolt even has one of a half thread started in the V-band clamp. It won't come off. So you have to take the bolt completely out, both sides. The clamp is kind of seized. It kind of fell somewhere. I gotta find it. There it is. The clamp is kind of seized. Let's fix this out real quick. Come on, baby. Yeah, I'll get it after we get it. There we go. This clamp is seized around the flange, and I had to put a flathead screwdriver on the bottom and twist it to get the bottom, but just the bottom moved, and then I used a long extension and it pushed on this tab through the heat shield and spread the top. And after I did that, the cat came loose. We have a loose cat. It's not coming out quite yet. I think I'm gonna have to remove some heat shields or bend them a little bit, but yeah, that's how you do it so far. Getting this downpipe on was a breeze compared to taking it off, so I'm hoping this side goes just as easily. Taking the bolt out of these clamps is clutch for getting them off. They will not come off without taking the bolt all the way out. So set those on the lift. I'm gonna work on, I might have to remove some more of these heat shields now that I can have access to some of the bolts. but I'm pretty much there. This is a beautiful noise. I'm really hoping to have this wrapped up here shortly. I got to swap in the O2 sensors. I haven't done that yet, and then we'll put the cap back on, and the exhaust should be done. And then I got to do intakes, coilovers, and we're gonna set this thing on the ground, take some glamour photos, take some sound check video, and then I'm gonna post it on YouTube. And I really hope this helps somebody, because it was a pain. Bring your box of curse words. You're gonna use them. It really is not fun. If you're on the ground, like I said earlier, I feel bad for you, but you'll get through it. This video is gonna give you some insight for sure. It's just terrible. But if you really want downpipes on your Z, you're gonna have to pay for it. Number one, you gotta buy the parts, and then you're gonna suffer if you're installing them, or you're gonna pay somebody to suffer. So that's in the price. All right, driver catalytic converter is off the turbo. I got it out. When it's loose up in there, how I had it in the last video, this bolt, that bolt, and this bolt will make this shield come off. Once that shield came off, this thing slipped right out. This thing popped right out. That's definitely a good tip, because that thing is bulky. There's both cats removed. Pain in the ass. Look at all the bolts that are removed. These black ones are for the underbelly, so, but everything else is from this job, which is random 10 millimeters and stuff. It's really fun. Anyway, now for the downpipes, I got one over here. The turbo has like a male ring. It's kind of hard to see right there, but there's a male ring and there's a female recess in these downpipes. So they kind of snap on. They're nice and square. And what I did with the other side was when I get the V-bands up on there, I keep them spread. I spread this out. I set it up on the turbo to where I can access this side. So this side is facing the driver fender. I set it on the turbo. I get this all up in there. And these have like a piece of metal in the back, as you see. And when I get it up in there, I squeeze it. And when I squeeze it, it kind of holds the pipe in place. And like I said earlier, if you get this V-band on there, if you can get it on there and just thread the bolt in like a thread or two to where it's stuck, that means everything's captured together. It can't come off. So once you get that bolt started with this downpipe in place, you won't have any issues with it coming off. You might have to lift it back up and get it to snap back into the male and female ring. But once you do that, you just tighten this up and you're good to go. So another thing is I did have to bend this heat shield out of the way. So I'm concerned it might rattle. It might not, but I'm gonna leave it there. Just make sure when you bend it, it doesn't interfere with the wastegate actuator. I'm gonna try to leave it there to keep some heat under control. I left the other side too, but there's no bolts really to put back. But however, make sure you're clearing that wastegate actuator. You don't want them to get stuck closed or open, or the car will have performance issues. So keep an eye out for that. All right, I went ahead and removed this. This was hitting the aftermarket downpipe. It's a bracket that bolts onto the block. It bolts on right there. It's right next to the turbo. It was up in here. Got that removed. Now I'm gonna try to get the downpipe back up in there. One thing I am gonna do is, if you look, there's two bolts on the bottom of the turbo for that heat shield. I will be reinstalling that so we don't have any rattles. I don't know if this side has the same thing going on. It does, so I'm gonna put that back too. That's gonna be fun. I'll cry about it later, but I put those in because we don't want this brand new car rattling. So I finally got this V-band on. It's really put me in a bad mood, I'm not gonna lie. It took me like an hour and a half just to get this one V-band in, but I got it in. You see it right there. It's in there. What I did is I put this mounting bracket back and I bolted the downpipe up, and then I had this stand here. You might be able to use a jack if you're on the ground, but I lined the downpipe up and snapped it into the male and female portions on the turbo. And then I held it there and I tightened this bolt for the mount, and then it wanted to still pivot and move around. And then I put this there. And when I got this all set up correctly, the downpipe was just in place. It was just kind of there. And then I was able to mess with the clamp and get the clamp clamped around it. The clamp is a real pain in the ass, but I finally got it, and I'm taking a break. It's just so frustrating. But downpipes are on, thank God. And I'm gonna have to button up some of those heat shields that I talked about, the little 10 millimeters that go in the bottom right there, and there's some on the other side. But that's pretty much it. I gotta swap the O2 sensors as well. But man, the new Z, what a freaking nightmare. Oh my God. Anyway. All right, so I got both downpipes on. I still gotta install the O2 sensors. And I'm gonna get some better bolts for this bracket. I got this little crappy bolt, I wanna get a better one. I did put on the midsection, there's an ISR Y pipe. It's going to an ISR single exit. So we're gonna get that on. And then tighten everything up. I have everything loosely finger tight, just so I can adjust it. And then the exhaust will be done here in a few minutes. All right, so I got this ISIS exhaust system with the Y pipe. It doesn't sit perfectly straight in the bumper, but everything's loose, so I'm hoping when I tighten it up, it might fix that. It fits pretty good. I thought it was gonna hit right here, and it doesn't. Everything is just finger tight. As you can see, I'm gonna go through and tighten everything up. I gotta throw in the O2 sensors. I gotta throw some bolts into these, and a couple 10 millimeters in the heat shields on the turbos, and the exhaust system on this thing will be done. So, fun stuff. All right, I got the O2 sensors installed. This plug, you have to unwrap this harness up here. It's hard to see, but that connector, the female side, is wrapped around. You get to unwrap it, and it's kind of tight. I got some slack out of it. I'll see if I can zoom on it a little bit. Yeah, see that little bit of slack that's taped up? You got to get that all the way down here for this to reach. But that'll fit. This side plugged right in, no problem. Everything's tightened up. I'm gonna throw a couple 10 millimeters in the heat shields on the turbo, and the exhaust is done. Everything's tight. It fits good. Nice close fit there. Everything's good to go. This doesn't line up perfect. It kind of drives me crazy, but not much we can do about it. I think it'll look fine once it's on the ground. And that is pretty much full exhaust install on this car. The only thing I have to do left now is, if you look right there, there's those 2 bolts that go in the bottom of the turbo, and there's one on the other side, and this is complete. So I hope this helps somebody, because it was a real pain in the ass. I yelled and cussed a lot, I'm not gonna lie. All right, I got those pesky 10s, those 2 right there. I was able to feed the extension up and get one of them, which is super easy. I just impacted it on, and the other one I got started and tightened. This one over here, it's right there. I was able to feed an extension up and get that one. It didn't take me very long. So this is 100% complete, and I'll do a sound test next. Fun stuff. But there's the full exhaust, downpipes, turbo back, blah blah. So we're on the road with the downpipes, the intakes, the coils. I finally got the right height set. It was kind of a pain because those BC low coils came out of the box so low. This is what the car sounds like in the cab. It does have high flow cats, but other than that, it's got the ISIS single exit, and it sounds pretty good. I think it sounds good. So doing a little test drive, see how low the coils will settle. Hopefully not too much.